The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Ash Wednesday, so that means I'm joined by Ash. No, that's not a blasphemy. How you doing, Ash?
It's not a blasphemy. There's a lot of blasphemy going around all over the place, but not on this show. I'm good. I can't find my glasses, and it's really annoying.
My stapler? Have you seen my stapler?
You see my stapler? Yeah. So we're back to these today.
Oh, you're not wearing the blue, crazy.
No, I know where those are. I can go grab my rapid lesbian
me.
Glasses if you want. But
the rapid liberal lesbian glasses. Oh man, I made a mistake. I from time to time I do this. You check the comments, and somebody was giving me shit yesterday for making fun of Fetterman. And clearly did not understand that I've always made fun of Fetterman.
I was giving you shit for making fun of
No. Because they assume that because he had a stroke, when I call John Fetterman a retard, I'm referring to him post-stroke. He was a retard before the stroke. And I've expressed nothing but my best wishes in his recovery from that stroke. He's still a retard. So on that note, dude, the hockey gods gave me, they answered my prayers yesterday. They answered
what you're gonna have to be more specific.
So yesterday,
your team's not in this. So
I know. Yesterday I said, can you guys give me a Pacific West Coast game where it doesn't go to overtime? And last night the Oilers unfortunately smoked the Ducks 4-1, and I was able to turn that game off halfway through the second period and get some sleep because I was fully vested in the Golden Knights and the Mammoth game the night before, and I was up till 1:30 watching that game all the way through 1 minute left in the first overtime. And at 1:30 I was like, I'm gonna be so dead tomorrow. And I sure enough,
you gotta rally during playoff hockey. The only series I'm really watching right now is Minnesota Wild and the Stars, because the winner plays my Colorado Avalanche. And if it's the Wild, which it's now 3-1, I think, and is there 3-1 or 3-2? Which
the Wild's 3-2.
3-2. Yeah. So if the Wild win their next game, then we're playing the Wild. It's a pretty big rivalry, the Avalanche and the Wild, and that's John's team versus my team. So,
oh boy. Well, your team's going to win in 6.
obviously, we're going to win the whole thing.
Avs win in 6. You are not going to win the whole thing, but Avs win in 6. The Bruins brought their series. The Bruins are within 1 of Buffalo, a team that shouldn't have hockey. Both of them actually should not have hockey. Bruins only because BB says that Florida shouldn't have hockey. So screw you, BB. And then Chris's Penguins came within 1 as well. So you guys, I'm rooting for all of you guys vicariously as a Panther fan that was rejected from the playoffs after back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Go Avs. I'm only rooting for the Avs.
There should be like a grandfather clause where if you win back-to-back Stanley Cups, you're automatically in. It's the back-to-back clause of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
You're always making up new rules.
Yes, I am. All right, guys, if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up, and let's go ahead and jump into our show. Before we do that, of course, we do have to talk about our sponsors. And first up, we love the folks over at Tamarack Gardens.
Your body doesn't need more synthetic fixes. It needs real plant medicine. Wild herbs are packed with minerals, adaptogens, and healing compounds your body actually recognizes and can use, supporting energy, immunity, and balance from the inside out. At Tamarack Garden, our supplements bring these overlooked weeds and wildflowers back into your daily routine. Don't just manage symptoms, support your body and eat your weeds. Head to tamarackgarden.com for $10 off your order of $50 or more when you use code BADLANDS at checkout.
All right, Tamarack Gardens.
Love their stuff. I was actually using the Inflame Me Not stick this morning.
You should have used the Find My Glasses stick.
No, she hasn't made that one yet. Michelle, as soon as that's out, please, shoot me a sample because I need it. Always losing my glasses.
I couldn't think of a flower off the top of my head that has like eye in it. I was trying to
Iris.
Iris. Yes. You need to eat the iris weeds. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. This episode is also brought to you by Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil, omega-3s, and astaxanthin for heart, joints, and memory. If your feet or ankles tend to swell, especially towards the end of the day, or if your joints ache in a way that just won't quit, that's often inflammation at the cellular level, and one of the most well-researched natural solutions for it isn't fish oil. Today's sponsor has the better alternative. If you've been taking fish oil for heart, joint, or memory support, there's something that you need to know. Research shows that fish oil is 50% less absorbent than krill oil because fish oils, omega-3s, are in triglyceride form, while krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format that your cell walls are made of. That means krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill oil outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil is sourced from the pristine Antarctic waters containing the powerful antioxidant astaxanthin and comes in a tiny, soft gel. No fishy burps. No fishy burps. So big. Learn more and grab your Badlands special discount plus free shipping today at getkrill.com/Badlands. That's GETKRILL.com/Badlands. And whenever I talk about krill, it reminds me, like, isn't that like the main thing that whales eat? And like,
yeah, maybe
Finding Nemo, where they're like, swim away.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know for sure. I don't know the difference between krill and plankton. I don't know if there is a plankton or if there is a difference. Plankton makes me think of SpongeBob, though. Villas34 says eyebright is an actual herb. So maybe that one could help me find my glasses.
Eyebright?
Mm-hmm.
Eyebright. Okay. You got to eat your eyebright and then you'll find your glasses. Maybe you won't even need glasses after that.
This is not medical advice.
All right. Well, there is a ton of news to get to today. And there is some huge stories, right? This is going back to what I said over the weekend. There's weeks when decades happen and decades when weeks happen. Same thing here. This was a day when decades happened, and or yesterday was, and we'll get to all of that. But there is a method to my madness. Why I'm going to go the track I'm going to go, and you'll see when we have a special guest that's going to be joining us here shortly. You'll see when we get to that guest why we're doing it this way. But last night on Why We Vote, Ash and I, about halfway through the show, began to cover the Virginia Supreme Court hearing. I wrote an article about it, and I just want to highlight two clips here because I think they're very important clips. I literally saw the moment the light bulb went off with Ash on the special session in Virginia, and I think this was a very good way that it was articulated. So I want to play this clip here, and then the next clip will show you how horrifying it is to give this type of power to our legislatures. So again, the special session in Virginia was called in order to get this proposed amendment on the ballot last week. And this was the arguments during the Virginia Supreme Court. This is the quote unquote good guys in this argument.
As I was getting to, when an application for a special session is proposed, every single member of each house has the opportunity to approve or disapprove of the issues that are proposed to be taken up, meaning that a minority in either house, right, 1/3 of the body plus one member, can block that proposal. So to allow special sessions to address issues outside of the scope of its application would flout that 2/3 dual house requirement in the special session clause. In other words, HR 6007, which was the first supposed passage of the proposed amendment, is invalid because it's not a budget bill. Now, there's a narrower argument on the scope of the special session, and this is the one adopted by the Circuit Court, which, by the way, we did not abandon. It's in our brief on pages 17 and 19. We discussed what the Circuit Court did, and we endorse it. The argument is that the special session exceeded its substantive limits as approved by 2/3 of both houses in HJR 6001. HJR 6001 expressly limited a special session to consider certain things, budget bills and 4 other items, which are not relevant here, but it was memorial resolutions and judicial appointments, other appointments that required confirmation of the General Assembly, and internal business. But in any event, it definitely did not include a proposed amendment or anything about redistricting. So HJR 6007, again, exceeds that substantive scope.
What does the historical record tell us about the General Assembly taking on additional legislation beyond the stated purposes originally? And is there a historical track record one way or the other of this being an established pattern, or is this completely unprecedented, or what?
Well, as far as we can tell, it's unprecedented. And petitioners do not cite a single occasion where a special session went outside of its bounds in this manner.
Okay, so something hit me, Ash. One of the questions you asked me last night on Why We Vote was, how do I think this is going to turn out? And I said, I'm pretty confident that the Supreme Court is going to strike down that election. And then this morning I was listening to something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then I started thinking about it. And then I was like, wait, man, maybe not. Like they're going to use the fact that people voted in an election as a huge weight in whether or not they're going to strike this down. And I started thinking about it, and I think maybe now I'm like 50-50 that they're actually going to do it. But the whole reason they allowed the election to continue was because of precedent, because it's been 100 years since that the court has not allowed themselves to interfere in the legislative process. And this was considered part of the legislative process. And I said specifically when that happened that the precedent is made to be broken in certain circumstances. Yeah. So the very last thing they said there, like Chevron, is precedent. Is there any precedent for the General Assembly to go outside the bounds of what they were allowed to do, what they said they were going to do, and just decide to do whatever the hell they wanted? And again, what they did here, they had no means of redistricting unless they did specifically what they did. There was not going to be another general session for them to propose this amendment. So they called a special session, which required 2/3 of the vote, meaning the GOP could have shot this down. The Republicans in the Virginia General Assembly could have shot this down if they came out and said, we're going to propose an amendment to the Constitution. They could have shot it down. But instead, they came out and said, we're just going to do budget bills, just simple budget bills. We need to do budget bills. Everybody wants to do budget bills. Everybody loves budget bills. And so the GOP said, okay, we'll allow this to happen. 2/3 vote, we're good. Then when they got in session, they're like, you know what? Screw you guys. We're going to propose an amendment. And that only takes a simple majority, which we have in both the Senate and the House of Delegates. And so they literally said one thing, get in there, and they completely flip around, which is one of the reasons why I'm hesitant on the Convention of States. And this is the only, well, I mean, that's how we got the Constitution in the first place.
You're opening doors that you should not open in this environment.
Yes. And Let me play this last clip, and then we'll transition to our guests here. They just arrived, and can
I just say something?
Sure.
So the idea that the vote of the people is so important. It is this kind of idolized thing that we can't. Well, there's just no way we can go against a vote of the people. The people have voted. The people have spoken. That is the premise for keeping the status quo of elections in place. And we're looking at a case here where they manipulated the process to get into session. They changed the rules while they were in session. They hoodwinked the people with the ballot language, with the language on the ballot. And every single step of this was manipulated to bring about a desired outcome that's a vote of the people. That is, it's so sinister. And you know me, like, I love it when we have these kinds of questions entering the courts, going through the process, because that is a problem that we need to solve. That the idea of voting, it's the same kind of, access versus accuracy thing that you and I talk about all the time. The idea of voting is so powerful that it is a cover story for manipulation, coercion, rigging, outright fraud.
Yep. And by the way, the whole redistricting battles brought about because of Texas, allegedly.
I thought it was because they manipulated the census.
Well, that's why Texas did what they did, cause and effect. But this right here could bring about a whole revolution in this country with Republican dominated state legislatures saying, hey, let's go into a special session because we got to make sure we stop X problem that everybody will rally behind. And then they go in there and they're like, let's just abolish all Democrats from the state. Let's amend the Constitution so you cannot be a Democrat living in the state of Florida, and just kick them all out. No, I'm totally kidding. But
to everyone complaining that all shows are why we vote now, the alternative is that all shows are Sons of Liberty now. So careful what you wish for.
I mean, why we vote and Sons of Liberty are they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
All right. So this was the Democrat. Well, the bad guys. We're not going to call them Democrats because we don't know their political party.
It's the Latin.
The Latin appellant in Latin means the bad guy. This was their response, and I was shocked by this response. They owned it. They're like, yeah, we went in there and fucked shit up. We went in there and just changed everything around
for fairness.
So just a few points in reply to establish that the people did, in fact, validly ratify the proposed amendment last Tuesday. First, I want to reiterate the fact that the challenger's sole argument with respect to the scope of business of the special session at which the General Assembly passed the proposed amendment the first time is that they purportedly exercised a power not found in the text of the Constitution to limit the scope of business in that special session. Now, I just want to point out that House Joint Resolution 428, which is when the General Assembly applied to the governor for that special session, says, and I quote, that the business shall be to consider such matters as are provided for in the procedural resolution adopted to govern the conduct of business coming before the special session. So in the document that was voted on by a 2/3 majority, it refers then to the procedural resolution, which the General Assembly then changed pursuant to its own procedural rules. So for them to win on that point, it has to be the case that the 2/3 majority power refers not just to the convening, but also textually to a power to limit the scope of business, and they have to stack inference upon inference to say that 2/3 majority request did so.
So the General Assembly is the master of its own operations, and if they wanted to close the door more tightly, it could. If it wants to leave it ajar, it can.
Yes, that's correct, and they can change that by majority vote at any time. And so I think,
but in other words, if they had a pretty airtight resolution saying we're only going to look at this one thing and absolutely nothing else, then you might agree. And
no, you
would not.
No. So if they have an airtight resolution that they can only look at this, you agree that they can only look at this. No, I don't agree with that.
No, they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, because democracy and fairness. Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a fair amendment to the Constitution? If it requires 2/3 of a vote to get into a special session, it should require 2/3 of a vote to amend the purpose of that special session. How about that? That's fairness. Instead of entrapping Republicans in Virginia to going into a special session, which you can say maybe they did it on purpose. Who knows? Smoke and mirrors. But to bring them in and then be like, oh, rug pull, we're changing the whole purpose of this.
Yeah.
Bonkers, man. And they own it.
Yep.
Now, to segue into our guest here, one of the concerning things in that hearing, and we talked about this last night, that didn't come up at all, was the way that the wording on the ballot appeared. Restore fairness, a misleading, completely misguided term that just skews the electorate.
It's ambiguous and subjectively determined.
It's not ambiguous.
Right?
It's clear. It's clear.
No, what does it mean? What does fairness mean?
Fairness. Exactly.
What does fairness mean? Right? What does it mean? I maintain my original reaction to this. How did that make it on the ballot? How is it that made it on the ballot to be put towards voters? But our guest is going to talk about how does a lot of stuff make it on the ballot? Is this a ballot or is it a poll?
Yeah.
No.
So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Holly Kessler of Georgia.
Hi,
Holly,
y'all.
Oh,
Doing good. How are y'all doing? Good to see y'all.
It is always good to see you, Holly. I saw this morning, I woke up and I saw a post that you had. I actually think it might have been sent to me. This might be a hat tip to Jennifer Asper. She sends me election stuff all the time. She's incredible.
She is good.
I think it was her that sent this to me. But anyways, you have this post up about Fulton County and the Democratic primary ballot that's going to be going out here. And let me get it pulled up here on screen so that we can talk about this. But let me get it. Hold on one second. I should have had this ready to go. I had it because I was showing Ash this morning. All right, let's go ahead and share this and walk us through this ballot here, Holly.
Yeah. So if you scroll down and see,
what is this ballot?
So this ballot is a Democrat. This is one of the pages. It's, multiple pages. So I just took a screenshot for, there's 4 screenshots actually for the entire ballot, but this is the Fulton County Democrat ballot. So we're, coming into the May primary, and you can get online, put in your credentials, at my voter page on the SOS website. And when you scroll down, you see where you vote and that sort of thing. It gives you all those details. And then when you scroll down, you can view a sample ballot. And so for Georgia, we're open primary, so you get to choose. Are you going to, vote on a Democrat ballot, a Republican ballot, independent? And so this is from the Democrat ballot out of Fulton County. And yep, you see it right there, number 4 and 5. Number 4 is on January 28, 2026. The FBI raided Fulton County Elections Office and took your personal data. Do you think they should have your personal voter data? And then the next one goes on, number 5, and says, are you aware sitting Republican Fulton County Board of Commissioners served as a witness alongside other 2020 election conspiracy theorists on the affidavit the FBI used to steal your private election information? And I think it's shocking. Ash, I heard you say earlier that, they're creative with their verbiage, when they put these things on the ballot and the way that they word them and want people to vote on them. Fulton County, they just lay it all out there. Their rhetoric never seems to end, and it is absolutely astonishing. And I don't know if this is, this might even be defamation or libel for Bridget Thorne. Bridget is incredible for Fulton County. She is a Republican. She does, hold the line. She stands up to them. She pushes back. She was very much involved in Fulton County 2020 elections, and one of the ones that stood up and witnessed a ton that happened and went on. But she's good. And she's not just a fly-by-night person. I mean, this is a total smear campaign against her. She's a Georgia Tech grad, a track Hall of Famer, software engineer, commissioner. She's 27 years in Fulton County, so she's been there for a long, long time, and like I said, she's worked the polls.
And they're going with the dangerous election denier 2020 election conspiracy theorists. Important to note that Bridget Thorne has personal firsthand knowledge of what happened in Fulton County in 2020. She testified before the Senate committee when those hearings were happening in the wake of the 2020 election. And as I recall it, you guys know better than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it was one of the most impactful testimonies I heard during that whole season was that she was in the the warehouse where they were doing the testing, and they were printing off a ton of test ballots, and she caught a couple people just filling them out for Biden. She's like, no, we're testing all the different mixes of the races, so we have to put them in, we have to do a mix and all these kinds of things. And then there were those test ballots, they weren't being spoiled. That's important because folks will recall the night of the 2020 election in Fulton County, when all of a sudden there were pallets. I call them pallets. I think people back in that time frame got in trouble for calling them pallets, but every last dick. There were pallets of ballots that were pulled out and scanned multiple times through the tabulators in the middle of the night. And those two things are, at least could reasonably be considered to be connected. Where did all those extra ballots come from that were stored under the table during the day? That's Bridget Thorne's personal firsthand testimony of what happened in what I would call the test ballot factory in Fulton County. So to call her, dangerous conspiracy theories, what's the alternative explanation for what she witnessed? They've never provided one. They've just disparaged her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and another thing too, when you're talking about witness, I mean, I'm no attorney, but you're clearly going after a witness in a criminal investigation, a federal criminal investigation. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I got wind of it and I thought the alarm needed to be sounded about it, because it's not good. And they want to talk about rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric, and this and that. It's time for Fulton to own up to what they've done. Let's get it right. Stop with the dangerous rhetoric, because we all see what happens, this day and age with that sort of thing, especially in Fulton County. But it's more the cover up.
Well, and Holly, what you just said right there is a great point. Have you ever seen this before on the Democrat ballot? Something so blatantly just not even partisan, but defamatory as this type of stuff?
Never. I have never seen this sort of thing. I have never seen anything like, and I know, I mean, y'all know too, y'all work with a lot of same people across the country, know a lot of same people. Everybody has issues, but when it comes to Fulton County and the way that they double and triple down and the things that they say, and then now putting this on the Democrat ballot for all to see, it's shocking. I mean, and I thought I couldn't be shocked by Fulton County anymore, but this is pretty shocking.
And to what end? Like, what even is this? I said before, like, is this a ballot or is it a poll? Do you know? Are you aware? Like, what are these questions being presented to voters? What is the intention of them? Because I think you're right, Holly. It seems that this is just intended to disparage, knowing that in an open primary, people might, involved, engaged voters will take both ballots, look at both ballots. So you're getting a lot of eyes on whatever is on the ballot. What are they trying to get out of this process by putting these, they're not measures. They're not asking for, are you aware of this thing that we claim happened is not a question for a ballot measure. And that just a quick follow up, to what you were talking about earlier. I live in the communist country of Colorado. Even here, you could not get this on a ballot. You could not get this on the ballot because it's ambiguous. It's not a single issue item. There's laws, rules. There's rules that govern what constitutes a ballot measure. How did this get on the ballot?
Right. And that's a great question. I mean, here our counties can, like our Republican, I can go to our local Republican Party and they vote and decide what gets put on the ballot, what doesn't. And so same thing with the Democrats, the Democrat Party as well. But, it's there needs to be some safeguards and certain things put in place when it comes to this. And I hate to, it's one of those, it's sort of a rock and a hard spot because you want the parties to be able to do that sort of thing and have the ability and the free will to do it, or First Amendment, but at the same time, when you start talking about stuff like this, it's just like you said, what are you measuring here? What are you trying to get out of it? What is actually the outcome of this and what is the purpose of it? And so if it's not anything credible or it's not anything, that's an actual policy that you're looking to do or see where, your party aligns on, I don't know, say marijuana or, whatever the case is, this is just clear, outright defamatory language. And just steering a narrative. It's all it is, just continually steering a narrative.
Well, it's not even steering the narrative in this case. It's seeding the narrative.
Or seeding,
They're seeding it in this case because these ballots are going to go out to millions of voters. Well, hundreds of thousands because it's, Fulton County. This is going to go out to hundreds of thousands of voters in Fulton County who probably don't know much about what's going on in all of this. And it's going to plant that phrase in their head, right? Okay, we have a board of commissioners that's an election denier. One of the other questions that we didn't cover up here at the top: should known 2020 election deniers sit on the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections? Excuse me. Do you want everybody to sit on that board that is going to go along with the status quo and say whatever? I can't even remember the name of the woman that's the chair right now. Not Nadine Williams. She's the DRE. What's the chair's name on the DRE?
No, Nadine's the supervisor.
Right.
It's I want to say Kathy Wooler, but that's not it either. She's a chair.
But you get my point though. If you don't go along,
I would have been able to tell you.
if you don't go along with the status quo, you have no business here. So should we seat election deniers? But then you look at what they said about the FBI data with the FBI data. This is all stuff the parties have. Everything the FBI got is stuff that parties can get access to, that the public can get access to. It's no different than that. But the FBI does have that information. We know that there is going to be hopefully indictments coming down regarding that information. There's investigations ongoing because of that information. And so by sending this out there, they're weaponizing their base, or at least they're planting the seed in their base's mind, in the Democrats' mind, that may otherwise not be privy to this type of information, that, hey, there's election deniers in Fulton County. And what you're going to see coming out here, we have a weaponized FBI, we have a weaponized Board of Commission member, and we have weaponized people on the Board of Registration and Elections. This has nothing to do with a ballot. They don't care about the results of this. They're not going to do anything with the results of this. Maybe they propose rules and regulations and laws, perhaps, but there's nothing on its face that can be, provided to do that. But this is, I was blown away by this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you, because I didn't include number 6, but one thing that I just thought about was, there's still a lawsuit going on with the Republican board members. Julie Adams and Jason Frazier are supposed to be seated on that board, and they are fighting that tooth and nail, which Julie's still on there because she was already on there. But they are absolutely refusing for Jason to get on the board. And so there's a legal battle going on, number 1. And while that's going on, they're putting this out there on the Democrat ballot for all of them. And then again, they're wording it, to say, 2020 election deniers. Well, no, they were rightfully chosen unanimously by the Republican Party. They get 2 picks, two people to assign to the board. And those were the picks, and they're just refusing to seat them. And so it's just unbelievable.
And it says in the law, shall. And now all of a sudden they're arguing that shall doesn't mean we shall.
Yeah, shall doesn't mean we shall. It meant we shall one time, but it doesn't mean we shall now.
It's so crazy. Sherry Allen, by the way, is the chairwoman.
Sherry Allen, yes, thank you.
It just clicked. Holly, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. This is a pretty shocking thing, man. You thought restore fairness on the Virginia ballot was bad? This is even worse. So.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, but we know what we're up against, and we got to keep fighting. So thank you guys for having me to talk about it, and y'all keep pounding the pavement. I love y'all. See you soon.
Yep. Where can people find you on social media? Because you are on top of Georgia big time.
Yeah, so on my X, I got a Substack now too. We've got a massive governor's race going on right now, the gubernatorial race. Burt Jones is the guy. We had the billionaire slide in and try to really, really just cause some chaos, but Burt Jones is the pick for Georgia. And so I've been doing some deep diving on this other Rick Jackson guy, and it's not good. But yeah, I've got a Substack, been releasing a lot of stuff on that, and then all of our election stuff. We're looking to have a special session too. I think that's going to happen. I don't have confirmation on that, so but I do think that's probably going to be what it is.
You can do whatever you want in that special session. You can do whatever you want in the special session.
I know. I was laughing when I was listening to y'all talk about it because I thought, we're probably going to have one. We'll see how it goes. But no, I do feel confident though that we've got some good ones trying to figure out how we're going to legally vote after July 1st. So, but yeah, Holly Kessler on all my social media. It's all the same. So Facebook, X, Substack, and yeah, appreciate you guys.
Yep. We love you, Holly. Take care. And God
love
bless.
Y'all. See you soon.
All right.
We have some breaking news.
What's the breaking news?
That Louisiana versus Calais. This is the Louisiana redistricting case with the second black district. It says that this was an attempt. It's my understanding, an attempt to expand Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I talked about this a little bit on my show on Monday night, Culture of Change, to expand Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And their argument was that Section 2 requires that we have a second black district in Louisiana in this, one area. They struck it down. They called it a unlawful racial gerrymander 6-3 Supreme Court.
Party lines.
Yeah. This is the side that the Trump administration did a statement of interest on won this case.
Wow.
It's fantastic. So this is devastating to the expansive view of the Voting Rights Act that we are seeing. It's both Section 2 and Section 11. Again, if you want more information about this, go watch my show from Monday. I went into great detail about the Voting Rights Act. I defended myself in court against the Voting Rights Act. It is there is an attempt by the Mark Elias, Norm Eisen groups of the world, that whole ecosystem, to expand there has been, I should say, a attempt to expand the Voting Rights Act. They keep getting knocked down because, it's basically an end run around the First Amendment and around protected rights. And however, vigilance is required because their next step, and this is already underway, it's probably happening in your state. Their next step is to bring about state level voting rights acts that have these expansive views. And it's still unconstitutional if they do it at the state level to try and do an end run around the First Amendment and, the Bill of Rights more broadly, to reinterpret statutes this way, to reinterpret rights this way. But you will have to fight it in court or it'll stand. And so good news. And also head on a swivel.
So this means I know there's a lot of GOP states that had been waiting to redistrict until after the Calais decision, the Louisiana v. Calais the decision. And now that we've got it, we'll see it happen. And so, again, I think the war that the left has waged. So they say that Texas started it, right? And Ash and I talked about this last night, and I've talked about it on the show before, that Texas did it because of a weaponized census. The census was weaponized against the GOP, against conservatism, conservatives, not conservatism necessarily.
Republicans, really, right? I mean, I wouldn't call a lot of those people conservative, but it was weaponized. Also, shout out to Mass Republican 71 for giving us a heads up that happened, because I wasn't aware of it until that post. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so it was weaponized. The census was weaponized. Texas responded, and then, of course, the left responds. The most gerrymandered states in the union: California, all of New England, Illinois, Maryland. I mean, these are states that have almost zero representation for GOP, despite having 30, 40, 50% voter turnout for the GOP. So again, this is if the ultimate victory in the most kayfabe aspect of our elections, districts and redistricting. If the Virginia Supreme Court does overturn that referendum from last week, this is going to be a massive, massive victory for the GOP in the 2026 midterms, which Harvard CPAC just put out a poll here. Republicans are 50-50 with Democrats over registered voters for the 2026 congressional ballot. And so, again, polls are pretty fake and gay, but whatever. Also, 2028 presidential primaries, Kamala Harris is number one in the Democrat Party with Newsom at 22%.
I love it.
What?
Throw them on the same ballot, run them together. Let's go.
We got word salad again. So Harris, 50%, Newsom, 22%. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, 9%. AOC, 8%. Let's get AOC out there. Pritzker, 6%. And then for the GOP, we got Vance at 48%. And the next closest competitor would be Trump Jr., followed by Marco Rubio. DeSantis, single digits. Wah, wah, wah. All right. That's all we got. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Asawavana.
Yeah. I mean, this is exciting. This Supreme Court case is exciting. The lead counsel on the side that lost was NAACP Legal Defense Fund.
I love it. Well, they also funded, or they're defending the SPLC, which
I know,
the KKK, which was started by the Democrats in 1865 or somewhere around there. I mean, just watching everything come around, and we also, Bridget Thorne we didn't talk about earlier, but I had a clip from years ago that got a lot of recognition last week where she's calling out the ACLU for having 255 lawyers / clerks in every precinct in Fulton County with access to ENET on their personal computers. So they could do whatever they wanted on their personal computers with the election registration databases and voter databases in Georgia, in Fulton County.
You know what's funny is that all of those NGOs, their tax status relies upon them being nonpartisan.
Yep. And that's all going to go away, hopefully. Yeah. All right. The big news outside of all the election news that's coming out, James Comey indicted for alleged threats against Trump, according to the DOJ. Let's jump right over just into the indictment itself. And this might upset a lot of people. This is going nowhere. This is going absolutely nowhere. It's over the 8647 shells and saying that that's a threat on the president, which sure, you may consider it a threat. We all know what 8647 means, but I can make an argument that it doesn't mean what he said it means, and that he just took a picture and said, well, that's an odd formation on the beach. This is so dumb.
You really could make that argument. I'm not sure I could make that argument. That 8647 didn't mean 8647. I think it meant what it meant. I think that I don't think we could argue in the alternative, but I think it's also protected speech. He's not making a specific and concrete call to violence. He's, making a, stupid, in my opinion, assertion, but it's protected speech. And this is a trend that is very concerning to see Republicans and conservatives and people who during the Biden administration were screaming about rights and standing on rights and talking about protected speech. Just now that your party is in power in the government, you flip. And now we're going to punish people for, speech and expression. I think it's stupid. I think that James Comey belongs in Gitmo awaiting his ultimate end. But that has to come, first of all, through due process. And it has to come based on his actual crimes, not a picture of seashells. Like, get your shit together, administration, and indict this guy for the election interference, for the Russiagate collusion stuff. Like, where is that? Yep. Where are those indictments? Because those indictments we can get excited about. This is silly.
You're going to go in court, and one of the first arguments that's going to be made is what every server, bartender, waiter, waitress knows. When you 86 something, you cancel an order. 86 that order, cancel it. And you can make the argument that it's kill it. I see MedBed says kill it. Sure, you can make the argument it's kill it, but you can also make the argument it's cancel it, and you can't err on one side of that and say that. Interpret what Comey meant when he posted that picture, which he allegedly didn't make the shell formation, right? He just stumbled upon it on the beach. Okay, sure.
Yeah. If we 86 the soup in the restaurant, are we assassinating the soup? No, exactly. We're taking it off the menu because it's not available anymore. And so your point is hold. Jixer Trickser says it opens him up to discovery. No, this is a criminal trial. He does not have to self-incriminate in criminal trial.
Exactly. And not only that, even if that were the case and it opens them up to discovery, I mean, obviously you'll be able to get subpoenas and warrants for certain things and whatnot. But again, do you really want to weaponize the DOJ in that way? Because it's not always going to be Trump's DOJ. It's not always going to be conservatives in charge of the DOJ. We just went through this with them before. You really want to open up that box where we're going to use free speech to go after somebody in order to get evidence of a crime that they may or may not have committed. Don't use the ends to justify the means. Okay. Focus on the means.
Preach. Weeb Patriot 777 says, I disagree. We need to not let up on these clowns. If you are abandoning principles for political win because you have power now, then that is going to boomerang back and hit you in the face. Amen. And we already saw this. We lived through this. Now, maybe, a lot of the people holding that position didn't have that experience during the Biden administration. They weren't canceled. They weren't dragged into court. They didn't have their speech and assembly and association and expression challenged and weaponized against them. But I did. Brian did. Pretty much everybody I know, I think everybody at Badlands did in one way or another. And we should not be cheering for that because we like the people in power. Incredibly consistent on this point. We have got to cling to the principles, and because if otherwise we're giving them permission to weaponize the government against us. And weaponizing the government is something that we should be priority number one for punishing, bringing about accountability for, and making sure it can never happen again.
Yep. I'm with you. I am with you. All right. I will say this though. We doomed out, and you may want to go to some of the other shows that are going to say the things you want to hear and make you feel rosy about it. And that's great. You're more than welcome to, but we will give you unfiltered, uncensored truth and our opinions on things. And this is not going to go anywhere. Mark my words. This investigation specifically to that claim. Now there might be other claims that arise, and more than open to those. But that 8647 is not going to go anywhere.
Agreed.
Here's a case that is going to go somewhere, and I'm super excited about this one. From the New York Post, Anthony Fauci advisor indicted by DOJ on charges of concealing COVID records. And I think this is going to open up Pandora's box in a good way this time. David Morenz, 78, has been charged with 1 count of conspiracy against the United States, 2 counts of destruction or alteration or falsification of records in federal investigations, and 2 counts of concealment, removal, or mutilation of records. And let me warn you, this is going to be a lot of reading because there's, this is a long article with a lot of details that need to be hashed out.
Let me know if you need help with the big words.
Let me know if you can see the screen with your bad eyes. All right. The conspiracy also included an alleged kickback scheme where Morenz took or was promised gifts, including wine bottles and meals at Michelin-starred restaurants, to conduct, quote unquote, official acts favorable to a federal grantee. The indictment notes 2 unnamed conspirators who, quote, concealed, removed, destroyed, and caused the concealment and removal of federal accounts to evade FOIA. It pisses me off so much. I was thinking about this before the show, Ash. I think we need a new law, and I'm not usually a big proponent of laws, but this is an accountability law. If you are caught evading FOIA, automatic 5-year addition to any sentence that you incur.
Yeah.
We need to stop them from doing this shit where they're like, oh, my .gov email, don't send it there, send it to my Gmail. If you are found out to have subverted the public transparency that you are accountable to as a public official, if you are found to have done that, automatic 5 years, no questions asked. If you're sentenced to 2 years, you're now doing 7. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
All right. Information in the indictment indicates that the co-conspirators are Peter Daszak, EcoHealth Alliance, let's go, and Dr. Gerald Cush, a associate director at the Boston University's National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratory Institute. What a name. And the National Institute of Health, a National Institute of Health grantee. Former House COVID subcommittee chairman Brad Wenstrup told the Post that additional indictments may follow. So now let's get into the meat of this. Now, I want you guys to remember, and we've said this when everybody's talking about the indictments and everything, and we want to see all these people arrested, a lot of these people are still protected by the auto pen pardons.
Yep.
We have to delegitimize those auto pen pardons before any of this can go anywhere.
They already are, though, aren't they? I mean, don't you like it? Just needs to be brought in. So I would say the way that you challenge that, the way that you delegitimize the auto pen pardon, is by charge these people with the crimes that they committed, and then have them say, "Nuh-uh, I was pardoned by Jake Sullivan." Or whoever was signing whoever was wielding the auto pen that day. And then we set that precedent that the auto pen pardon, and then the floodgates open for holding these people accountable. That's what has to happen. I don't think they have any protection under those pardons, but they will stand until they are challenged.
Just have President Trump bring the whole jury down to the Hall of Presidents at the White House and be like, point to number 46 on here, and it's the auto pen picture, and be like, yeah, he can't pardon anybody. That's the big problem here, and one of the problems with the preemptive pardons, which that needs to go away too. You can't preemptively pardon somebody for crimes that you're not going to specifically say what they did, right? Because for all we know, Fauci could have poisoned somebody that killed millions of people. Oh wait, he did.
He did that. Yes.
Yeah, he did that. And millions of people could have died as a result of that. And we have no idea that that's what we pardoned him for. We would have been pitchforks if we would have seen that. Pitchforks and shotguns if we knew that they pardoned somebody that killed millions of Americans.
Well, so now take it to Tina Peters, right? So President Trump issues her a pardon, and everybody's like, nope, doesn't stand. No, I mean, I can argue that either way. I can argue that they, them, these United States. You and I had this debate a little bit last night. I can also argue that the pardon power it doesn't apply to the states. That that's the governor's domain, and a 10th Amendment kind of view of the world, that the president wouldn't have the ability to pardon. I can argue it either way. Again, has to be challenged, has to make its way through the courts and have the determination made. That's how this works.
Somebody in the chat said, CannCon, they took Comey's electronic devices, so don't assume his indictment is only for 8647. Unless it's what's in the indictment.
Yeah.
That's what the indictment says.
We're not making an assumption. It's like, don't assume that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's not in the indictment.
Right. Now, there could be superseding indictments, sure. But if you're using this indictment in order to get dirt on somebody, careful how you root for that, because that can be weaponized against you. And that is not how justice in this country works.
And here's the other thing is that my personal belief is that this is all one large treasonous conspiracy. And it doesn't start the treasonous conspiracy, the crimes against the United States, right? The crimes against the people doesn't start in 2016. It starts, I mean, arguably in 1947 or 1871 or, so in my opinion, this is one big treasonous conspiracy. So that means election theft, part of the conspiracy. Everything that Comey did was in service to the people that were attempting to undermine the elected president of the United States, part of the conspiracy. The auto pen, part of the treasonous conspiracy. So it's not that I don't think that Comey is going to get justice or anything like that. It's that it has to be done the right way. It has to be done ticked and tied, dot every I, cross every T, or you're going to get really happy because there's an indictment. And then you're going to be really, really depressed when they get off because it wasn't handled in the right way and it was done for political reasons and not justice reasons. And I'm not moving off of that line.
Say no to rugs, kids.
Hold that bridge.
Say no to rugs.
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody in the chat, and I'm not going to name names on this because I'm not a fan of these comments and I don't want to, whatever. But the Comey indictment is a nothing indictment to flush out more deep state judges. Nobody's even going to flinch at this indictment. It is laughable. And I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge, nothing. That indictment is embarrassing.
And if it's just, I saw somebody earlier was like, well, they're just trying to mess with Comey. They're just trying to irritate him.
Comey's just going to be like, come on, guys.
Stop. That's weaponized government.
Exactly.
That's not the appropriate purpose of government. And we do not want the people in power wielding the power of government in that way. I don't care who's sitting in the seat.
Yep.
It's the process, it's the punishment, and it's going to be really annoying for him. Why are we cheering on using government power in that way? Turn your brain on. Okay, I'm done.
Yep. Football team, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, whichever team. Yeah. All right, let's get back into this one here. Fauci is also referred to as senior NIAID official number 1 in the indictment, but not named as a co-conspirator, maybe because he has the protections of the pardon. I don't know, maybe. Morenz, between April 2020 and June of 2023, sought to reinstate millions of dollars in federal grants for EcoHealth and burnish its public image. Those grants included a $4 million and $7.5 million grant in 2014 and 2020, respectively. I have talked about these since before Badlands was a thing, and I know all my colleagues here, most of them have been talking about this as well. But that 2014 grant was the one that seeded everything. And I think that they wanted to pull off the COVID scam if they needed to in 2016, but they didn't think they'd need to. I thought they still had the election in the bag. But anyways, that 2014 grant, there's a lot of other co-conspirators that could be popping up. One from North Carolina, just going to throw that out there. I think it was NC State. It's getting a little blurry in my mind, but reading on. Quote, there are things I can't say except Tony is aware, meaning Fauci, is aware, and I have learned that there are ongoing efforts within NIH to steer this through with minimal damage to you, Peter, and colleagues, and to NIH and NIAID. Morenz wrote to Daszak and Kush on April 26th, 2020 from a private email account, from a Gmail account. Isn't that the Sublime song, April 26, 1992? There was a riot on the streets.
Tell me, where were you? You were sitting home watching your TV. No, I love
while I was participating in some COVID debauchery. Daszak
was the liquor store. Okay. Sorry.
Daszak then provided illegal gratuities, 2 bottles of the Prisoner Red Napa Valley wine. I think that's so ironic. That's so rich. The Prisoner. He provided, I guess that's an expensive wine, the Prisoner Red Napa Valley wine. I'm a sommelier, a little bit of a wine connoisseur aficionado, and I've Don't know what that is because I'm poor too. So there's that. To Morenz home in June of 2020, quote, "This is the first of what I hope will be a continued series of expressions of gratitude for your advice, support, and behind-the-scenes shenanigans in my battle against your boss's boss, his boss, and the ultimate boss on the Hill," Daszak wrote in a message in June of 2025. Quote, "Now I am actually going to have to do something to deserve it. Let me think," Morenz responded before suggesting he could publish quote unquote scientific commentary that quote outlines the importance end quote of EcoHealth's work. Holy shit. I cannot wait for this trial.
Yeah.
The NIAID director and then NIH head, Francis Collins, had in February of 2020, quote unquote, prompted the notorious quote unquote proximal origins paper that sought to downplay concerns about COVID leaking out of a Chinese lab, instead claiming that the outbreak was consistent with natural origins. But the scientific community commentary to which Morenz was referring also advocated for a natural spillover theory of the virus. Emails published by Wenstrup's subcommittee and cited in the indictment showed that Morenz was asking Daszak directly, "Do I get a kickback?" about the $7.5 million grant that he secured for EcoHealth Alliance. Daszak responded, "Of course, there's a kickback. I hope it doesn't culminate in 5 years in federal jail."
This was a worse attack than Pearl Harbor. It was a worse attack than 9/11, the invisible enemy.
Yep. Morenz frequently conducted government business from his Gmail account and a secret back channel with his boss while asking the NIH's FOIA liaison for tips on how to evade record requests. "There was no worry about FOIAs. I can either send stuff to Tony on his private Gmail or hand it to him at work or at his house," Morenz wrote on an April 21st, 2021 email. "He is too smart to let colleagues send him that stuff that could cause trouble." And then Morenz went on to say, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I'm FOIA'd, but before the search starts." Morenz wrote that he would always communicate on Gmail because my NIH email is FOIA'd constantly and delete anything I don't want to see in the New York Times.
Is that lawful?
What's that? Deleting?
To evade FOIA for official business?
No.
Kind of, if it was lawful, it would undermine the purpose of FOIA, wouldn't it?
That's why we need a stipulation. That's why we need a law that for an accountability law. Again, I'm not a fan of new laws for we the people, but this is a law for them. This is a law to hold them accountable because we have no idea what was contained in those emails that were deleted for all and the emails that are back channeled and the text messages that are back channeled, the stuff that they use to subvert us from FOIA, because that is where the dirty shit happens. That is where you're lucky enough every once in a while to get a leak and find blow your mind as to how corrupt and disgusting these people actually are. And when they purposely get caught, when they're purposely doing this and they get caught doing it, there needs to be the harshest penalty so that they freak the fuck out every time they think about sending an email on a Gmail server or a text message on a non-governmental phone dealing with governmental business. We need to invoke the fear of God in their soul.
Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of pushback on the Comey thing. Should we let it go or should we circle back around to it?
Let's finish this and we can circle back. I will argue this all day long. That indictment is fundamentally absurd. Okay. Let me bring it back up. EcoHealth proposal, but another EcoHealth proposal that was never funded, known as Project Diffuse, has been flagged by scientists and lawmakers for containing a blueprint for creating the virus that caused COVID-19. While speaking on a biosecurity panel in October of 2024, ex-CDC Director Robert Redfield noted that even unfunded projects and proposals can be tested under other research grants that got funding. And then Event 201. I'm excited about this.
That's the thing. So I wrote about this in the brief. And I want to be excited about this. And everybody knows that I am on the grand conspiracy rug. I have, I've decorated it. I'm firmly fixed in the middle of it. Nobody's getting me off the grand conspiracy rug. When it comes to COVID, and I think COVID-19 is an overact in the grand conspiracy. I think all of these things that they did to undermine the president, and by extension, real definition, undermine us, undermine the will of the people, undermine the type of society that we want to build. We have the power, allegedly, right? According to the idea of America, everything that they did to undermine the will of the people in pursuit of preserving their power after we voted to get rid of it, to transform our nation. Everything that they did is an overt act in the conspiracy. When it comes to COVID-19, when I will get excited about this is when we hear that the people that did 201 are being rolled up, when we hear that the media apparatus that put death numbers and then case numbers up in your face, even while the ads were playing on their networks, they kept those counters up because they wanted to create such fear in the population. Parents against children and family members against each other. People that did the vaccine, the experimental gene therapy that, according to the information available, has resulted in vaccine injury and death all across our nation. That is under people that covered that up. When we're talking about the conspiracy for COVID-19, it is encouraging that we have one indictment of one dude. It is not justice for what was done to us during COVID-19 by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to believe that justice for COVID-19 is coming. We're going to have to see a hell of a lot more indictments because there was a hell of a lot of people involved in bringing that about. And I think it's treason because, again, I think globalism is treason. Globalism requires that the U.S. bends the knee so that the rest of the world can rise. And the conspiracy to commit the COVID-19 pandemic was a global endeavor. Event 201 was a global event. The World Health Organization is a global organization, and Americans who swore an oath to preserve and protect our Constitution, and meaning the rights of the American people, abandoned that oath to engage in this conspiracy with globalists. That is when I will be super excited about the COVID-19 pandemic, when we see when that's the conversation.
Yeah. I'm with you on all of that. I agree. And who knows how much of that will we be. So the kind of the premise of the article we just covered is that Morenz or Kush is going to roll on everybody else. And again, this is why you bring a lot of these people in. Me and Alpha have talked about this on SitRep. We've talked about it on Daily, called tickling the wire. You get other people to start talking about things. You're getting FISA warrants and lawful, warrants to do this type of surveillance as people that are subject of a criminal investigation, and you get things that leak. Going back to the Comey thing, 86-47 is not going to get there. Nobody's freaking out about this. I promise you, James Comey did not wake up and see that indictment and be like, "Oh no, they caught me."
Yeah.
He's going to go in there and he's going to be like, "Hey, 86-47 means cancel him." That's political speech. Yeah. That is free, First Amendment protected political speech. Great. Case dismissed. This will never even make it into a courtroom. There's no chance.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Mrs. Rise Attire, what's up, Christina in the chat, said, it was a while back, so I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of, what if he was communicating with the actual assassins? What if there was some sort of connection to the assassination attempts that happened and this seashell on the beach thing with, Comey being the conduit? That would be conspiracy to assassinate the president. That is an actual crime. That is a big deal. As far as I know, it's not in the indictment, though.
Right.
So, that's where the lines are. Like, we can speculate that there's a whole bunch more stuff with Comey coming for this thing. But with what we see right now, we're, not super bullish that this is going to be justice. Doesn't mean there isn't a superseding indictment coming. Doesn't mean that they don't have more information, more, charges to bring, more evidence and witnesses and all of that. But it's not what we see right now. And we're based on what's there right now. It doesn't appear that this is a justice pursuit. It seems like they're trying to kind of make the process the punishment. And as somebody who has had the process made the punishment against them, I will not support that, even if it's, people I like doing it, because the principle of it will be used against us in the future.
Yes,
Again.
I can get behind. I can get behind the idea that there will be superseding indictments and there could be more coming to this, but I'm telling you, just based on what the indictment itself, this is the official record right now. This is the official record. Anything else outside of this that you're hearing from, commentators, people here on Badlands is all speculation, speculation to what could be. We're talking specifically about this indictment, and to put this up here, I mean, sure, maybe we get a judge that dismisses this and dismisses it with prejudice, and so this case can't be brought again, and you can't bring this in again. Maybe. I don't know, But on its face, this indictment is garbage. It's worse than garbage. It's if this were to make it into a courtroom, I would be offended because it's a violation of the First Amendment.
Yeah, and the to the point about flipping and rolling people up, and somebody in the chat mentioned Al Capone and the Gambino family and all these kinds of things. That is a legitimate law enforcement and prosecutorial tactic that is used, right? That's how you roll up a RICO. We are told, and we're seeing this. I read this morning, I can't remember where I saw it. I don't know if maybe you have the story, but that the Charlottesville guy that they can't remember, F-37, F something,
P-37, F-37, yeah,
that guy has flipped. And so now the SPLC is, and this is, I'll look for it when we, go to an ad or something. But that's encouraging. That's great news. Neither Brian nor I are doomed out on the possibility of justice. We're calling balls and strikes on the action as they happen, and we're going to tell you when we think something is stupid, just like we're going to tell you when we're excited about something. So calm down.
Amen. Anybody who looked at that indictment and said, "Let's go," don't. Yeah. All right. I will say this though, Ash. The prisoner's blend is a $40 bottle of wine. Nice. Get the fuck out of here! You sold our country out for 2 bottles of $40 wine.
Not even $100.
You scumbag. There actually is a version. So I was looking at this. There is a version, the 1.5 liter. So maybe they were the big bottles. They're $100. So for $200 in wine, you sold out our country. Congratulations, David Morenz, you filthy piece of crap. May you have all of the justice thrown at you if you are convicted of this crime. Unfortunately, he's 78, so by the time all of this gets hashed out, he might not even make it to a courtroom. All right, let's move along. We got a ton to cover today, and I did not plan on going that long there, but FBI doing some raids out in Minneapolis. Get ready. We're seeing the Quality Leering Center and others getting raided.
More do we know about these raids and why they're happening now, Alex?
Yeah, well, we know that the agents from the FBI and HSI, the Department of Homeland Security's Homeland Security and Investigations Division, are taking part in a lot of these raids. We understand it's at least 22 locations, some of which include daycare centers. We've seen this, been a very big focus of this administration. They created an entire division now in the Justice Department with an assistant attorney general named Colin McDonald, who was confirmed by the Senate recently and has recently assumed this role of targeting what they say is rampant fraud, especially targeting Minneapolis, where President Trump has obviously singled out the Somali community there and said that they are responsible for a large part of this COVID fraud. Essentially, basically, the idea is they are using these daycare centers, claiming that people are going there, collecting these grants that were intended to prop up businesses during the COVID pandemic, and not actually having personnel or children there that they are serving. That's what they're trying to identify and prosecute. And we've actually heard from Governor Tim Walz's office. They spoke to KTSB earlier today. A spokesperson says they actually were part of these raids. The Minnesota AG's office also says they were active participants in at least 5 of the warrants that are being executed today, Kira.
All right. We'll track it. Alex Mallon, thank you.
All right. So Quality Leering Center, several others going to be getting busted here. We have a post here from JD Vance. The task force and the DOJ will be relentless in exposing these fraudsters wherever they may be hiding. And then we've got Governor Tim Walz. This was my favorite post. I don't know if you saw this yet, Ash. This is my favorite post. Today's raids by state and federal law enforcement happened because our state agencies caught irregular behavior and reported it. That's how the system's supposed to work. And our agencies will keep at it as long as there's fraudsters around to put people behind bars. Now let's work on a joint investigation in the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good instead of cherry picking when we seek justice and when we turn a blind eye. Kash Patel responded and said, "Come again? The FBI and DOJ with our DHS partners drafted and executed every search warrant today. But go ahead and take credit for our work while we smoke out the fraud plaguing Minnesota under your governorship."
Yeah.
Tim Walz taking any sort of credit for this, saying, when we find fraud, we'll investigate it. Bro, stand by. That might be in your indictment for the criminal negligence to allow this to perpetuate throughout Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And just to close the loop on that SPLC thing, if you pull in my screen.
Sure.
This is it's Ken Silva, who I heard it from. SPLC disclosed today that its former informant F9, who was a member of the National Alliance and worked for the SPLC for 20 years, has now flipped and is a witness for the DOJ. So it's not, I don't think that's the Charlottesville guy. It's a different guy. SPLC has accused F9 of being biased. The reasons for this are redacted. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, it's good. It's good news. F39 is a former member, so that's different guy. But yeah, so that was why I got mixed up on it, because there was in the thread it was talking about two different Fs.
Interesting.
Two different fuckers.
Oh, people in the chat, man. Alpha thinks Comey has or is going to flip. He may have already flipped. May because there's
elections are real. So
because there's a lot worse things that Comey has done besides 8647 taking a picture and posting on Instagram. That's laughable. But yeah, there is a possibility that Comey's flipped. We're just reporting on what's the official record. The official record. I saw somebody say, "Listen to what Todd Blanche said." I don't care what Todd Blanche said. I care about what the indictment says, and the indictment is nothing. The indictment is political free speech. Period. End of conversation.
And we have to protect it.
Yes.
Yeah. So in my case, Sean Smith made the comment on a stage at a political event.
Nope.
I think if you're involved in election fraud, then you deserve to hang.
Nope.
For 2.5 years of his life, he had to fight that as being a threat against Jenna Griswold for violence.
Yes.
Like that's what we're dealing with. So you're not moving me off of this. I guard this bridge. We are not passing over into, it's our turn to be evil now. It's our turn to weaponize the government now. They did it to us, so we can do it to them. It's the same bullshit. It's like, well, the left does ballot harvesting and early voting and all of these kinds of things, so we should totally do it too. Scott Pressler, no, we have to be principled when it comes to the what we are going to tolerate from government and what we are not going to tolerate from government. And if that line changes for you, if what you're going to tolerate from government changes for you based on which party controls the government, then you are part of the problem.
Yes. And the comparison with Colonel Smith was fantastic. I was in the courtroom when that happened, and I told him after the hearing, I said, Colonel, I am damn proud of you because you stood your ground on that. When they tried to turn that and get him to flip and say, well, it might have been, tongue in cheek or whatever, he was like, yeah, it's fucking treason. And death, the penalty for treason is hanging. Yes, I stand by that remark. He stood right there and stood in the gap, stood his ground, did not flinch in their face. And that's exactly what Comey's going to do. Comey's going to say 8647. It means cancel the president. That means I don't like him. Get him out of office. That's my free political speech. Okay. Now, again, this is Badlands Daily. I try and keep it very fact-based. We do offer opinions on things revolving around the facts. If you want to, tune into SitRep, me and Alpha will talk about this more on SitRep, and we'll be able to explore some of the possibilities and everything else that's going on. But I try and keep this show narrowed down, buttoned down to the facts. And the fact is, this is a garbage indictment. Okay, so let's move on. We got some Epstein news. From Reuters, New Mexico as New Mexico probes Epstein, local survivors are coming forward. This is one of the first times that we've heard survivors going on the record regarding Zoro Ranch from in and around that area. It says several individuals have said they were flown to the ranch and abused by Epstein and his associates. To date, only one, former Santa Fe massage therapist Rachel Benavidez, was known to be from New Mexico. New Mexico Representative Mariana Anaya says, quote, I can confirm that we have been reached out to by local alleged victims. It was the first time the commission has acknowledged contact with local people who say they were abused at the ranch during the quarter century that Epstein owned that property. The state reopened its investigation. We talked about this a couple months ago. Its investigation into the alleged child sex trafficking at the ranch in February, with the DOJ's release of an email from a person claiming to be a former ranch employee who alleged that Epstein buried the body of 2 girls outside of the property. That was disgusting, man. Like, apparently they died from a strangulation during a fetish thing, and they were foreign girls, and they buried them, and cadaver dogs went out and looking for them. And it's an 8,000 acre ranch. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. So It says the Solace Sexual Assault Services in Santa Fe is the only support center in the region. And in 2019, the year Epstein was arrested, they saw around 45 people approach the center. It says she estimated, which is the head of the center, said she estimated between 1/4 and 1/2 of those contacts were from women who were abused at that ranch. Now, another story on this, and there's a couple on this. New York Post, multiple young men were allegedly drugged and raped at Epstein Zoro Ranch where super predators roamed. This is the first time, Ash, that I've heard any allegations of men being sexually assaulted by Epstein and, the super predators out there.
Which is crazy because it happens just as much as it happens to women. And because, of traditional gender roles, I guess, or societal opinions about gender, men as victims of sexual assault barely ever get airtime. It's the same crime. It has the same emotional effects. It does the same harm. Arguably, there's a compounded greater impact, harm, psychological impact from that, because men are supposed to be men, and being raped by another man is a horrifying thing. But it is that's an excellent point, and I didn't even realize that until right now, that we never hear about the men or the boys. It's despicable.
So it says, quote unquote, multiple young men were allegedly drugged and raped at Epstein Zoro Ranch, according to a new report that detailed harrowing accusations from murder to baby snatched from mothers at the pedophile's New Mexico house. Quote, a man actually claims that he met Jeffrey Epstein and was brought to the ranch. He was drugged, says U.S. Representative Melanie Stansbury. He describes in detail a scene in which multiple young men were raped at the ranch in front of him after he was drugged. There's not much more in this story that we can't cover. I want to play this video here, but let me play this video first, and then I kind of have a take on that. But so this is 60 Minutes Australia, one of the victims coming out and talking about the Zoro Ranch.
Girls waking up in sort of like a dark room with like a female doctor standing over them, feeling like maybe there is some kind of procedure that had happened that they weren't aware of. And I believe this is in the file. Sure, there's something in there about a baby actually being born and then just disappearing, like Ghislaine taking it. I personally never witnessed anything like that, but I do remember overhearing conversations about trying to create the perfect baby, the perfect gene pool. And I know that there was sort of a hunt, if you will, for the perfect gene pool.
Zoro was a...
All right, so we can land that there. Now, here's the thing that's kind of weird to me. And again, this is the first time that we've ever heard accusations of men with Epstein being raped. And if you look broadly at what Epstein has been traditionally accused of, it's sex with underage girls, sex with women, or rape of underage girls, sex with women, rape of women, like all of it having to do with women, having to do with the CRISPR type gene editing that they're doing at Zoro Ranch and all of this stuff, the videoing, the blackmail, that type of thing. None of that to me, like you would think at some point the homosexuality, the attraction to males would have come out at some point. This is just really weird. Jeffrey Epstein has a God complex, right? He thinks that he is untouchable. And he has this thing where he wants to create his perfect specimen. He wants to create the perfect human being, and he wants it to be his posterity. He wants it to come from him. And, he wants to have the power. It just doesn't, the male thing doesn't sit with me. And so this accusation coming out, investigate it. Absolutely.
Hang on a second. So you're saying specifically with Jeffrey Epstein raping men?
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. It doesn't seem to fit the profile that we've been told. Also, doesn't he not have sex, like actual sex, because he has like a weird egg-shaped penis or something like that? I think we were told that his sexual perversions were not like traditional penetration sex. It was other stuff. That's, as I recall it. His story is difficult for me to engage with. However, so I don't know all the details, is why I said that. Like I kind of keep it at arm's length for my own mental health. But in Epstein Island and Zoro Ranch, on the plains, in the penthouse, I always assumed that every perversion was catered to. Right. It doesn't mean that Jeffrey Epstein is the one engaging in all of the perversions. I've said before, and until the Bannon interview, I was kind of firmly in this position. I sort of hedge a little bit now, but I think he was like the coke dealer, but the coke is perversions, right? It's whatever your deepest, most sinister desires are, he would bring it to you. Now, after the Bannon tapes, and where's the rest of that, by the way? Can we get the other 48 hours or whatever is supposed to exist? Steve, what's going on, Steve? Drop it. But after that, I think that it ties more to this story with the eugenics. And you think about Bill Gates and his view of eugenics, and he was at the island and they were friends. And so the eugenicist movement that has been, since the dawn of time, but certainly since post World War II, is my opinion that the Nazi scientists didn't go away. It was reinvented in pharma and in medical experimentation and in the research communities. And those things are still being pursued by globalists. They openly tell you this. Bill Gates openly tells you how he feels about these things. That this story of the kind of eugenics side of this foots more with how I think. So I don't think he was just the coke dealer. I think that he was a much more kind of integral player. And I get there because the morning that Bear Stearns is going down, Jeffrey Epstein is in jail in Palm Beach, and the CEO of Bear Stearns, according to his testimony, the CEO of Bear Stearns accepts his collect call, reverses the charges on a call. At the morning his offices are being raided, the whole world is crumbling for this guy. And who does he need to talk to? Jeffrey Epstein? Well, that's not your coke dealer. That's something different. That's your trusted advisor. So my opinions on how he fits and what was actually going on, they're evolving as more information comes out. But certainly this is a global, this eugenicist stuff is a global conspiracy, and it ties back to all of the gender theory stuff that we're getting. There's climate impacts in that because the overpopulation of and its impact on climate change is the premise for a lot of the evil shit they want to do to us. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested for sure.
Well, the coke dealer story narrative, that kind of umbrella would play into the blackmail thing. And right, his whole goal is to get blackmail to increase his power, because blackmail is the number one currency in all of DC politics, the globalist order. Blackmail is you can come across money left and right. Blackmail, that's how you get the money. But also, to your point, the Bear Stearns thing, he, during the Bannon interview, I think he says he had Bear Stearns on one ear and JP Morgan Chase CEO on the other ear.
And the phones didn't touch, because if the phones were able to touch, he'd be able to hang himself. And so that's how it was set up. That is the story we were told. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Right in the middle of the biggest financial crisis in any of our lifetimes, unless you were somehow alive in 1929.
Lost my house in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost. Well, I didn't lose my house, thank God. But I was in the Marine Corps, so I lost a vehicle though. But all right, let's hit a sponsor, and then we'll continue on with the news. Again, I got a huge story that I'm so excited to talk about, although also horrified, and I'm sure you can guess what it has to do with. But before we move on from that, guys, they can freeze your accounts, they can shut off your cards, they can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you, they control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold, on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. It's not an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. Now that's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside of the banking system. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. All right, let's get back into the show. So
that picture of me right there before I put my camera back on, that picture, I'm at the Vatican.
I was going to say you're in Italy, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, Vatican's its
It's
own
right,
country, but
right outside. Yes, I'm not in Italy. I'm in Vatican City.
Vatican City. Oh, 25 miles outside, 25 square miles outside of Rome.
That was a wild experience.
Me and Christy were talking about going to Italy.
You should
We got
rent a car, and do the road trip way.
Yeah, we did that in Ireland. It was fantastic.
It is the best way, and we did VRBOs, so it was home share stuff. It's the best way to do it.
We did Airbnbs throughout Ireland. It was fantastic. We did go to one that was like creeped out, and I thought like we were going to get like murdered. But we had another couple. Well, we had another couple with us, and I mean, I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. He was 6'6", like 300 pounds, and I was like, all right, we're good. Just make sure you stick around me and John. All right, let's get into this clip here. You know what, Brandon Gill, man, I'm loving this dude. Loving this dude. He says the things. Listen to this guy and this testimony, and at first you're kind of like, okay, well, this is kind of rhetorical. This is kind of like, propagandizing a little bit. No, it's not. Watch this. This is during a FACE Act hearing yesterday.
You're an advocate for abortion.
Oh, I should also warn you guys, this is extremely graphic. So if you have a weak stomach or whatever, you might want to tune out for the next 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
Abortion policy. What's your favorite type of abortion?
I am an advocate for patients having access to the full realm of reproductive health care.
But do you have a preferred method of abortion that you like?
I do not.
Let me read through a couple different methods, and I want to get your take on how much you like these. The first type is called a suction abortion. This is when the cervix is dilated and a strong suction, 29 times the power of a household vacuum cleaner, tears the baby's body apart and sucks it through the hose into a container. Do you prefer that method?
I stand by my former testimony.
That sounds kind of gross, doesn't it? Sounds pretty gruesome. Do you agree? It does to me.
I stand by how I answered your question fully and accurately.
Okay, what about this one? This one is called dilation and curettage. After dilation of the cervix, a sharp looped knife is inserted into the uterus. The baby's body is cut into pieces and extracted, often by suction. Do you prefer that method?
What I believe we are here to talk about today is the FACE Act. We are not here to talk about
I'm asking
the
you, you're
legality
a
of
pro-abortion
abortion.
advocate. I'm asking if you prefer the dilation and curettage method.
I am a access to reproductive health care advocate.
You don't want to talk about abortion itself. Why is that?
I would prefer to talk about the reason that the committee called the hearing.
Is it because it's uncomfortable to talk about?
I would prefer
It should be uncomfortable.
I would prefer, if you would let me finish my statement, to talk about the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which is what I was asked to come
what that
here
access
to talk about.
gets. How about this one? It's called dilation and evacuation. Forceps are inserted into the uterus, grabbing and twisting the baby's body to dismember him or her. If the head is too large, it must be crushed in order to remove it. Do you prefer that method?
I would prefer to talk about the reason the hearing was called and the basis of my expert testimony.
It's uncomfortable to hear this, isn't it? It is. I think it is, because it's barbaric and evil. How about this one? It's called the saline injection. It's when a 20% salt solution is injected through the mother's abdomen into the baby's amniotic fluid. The baby's skin is burned off. The baby ingests the solution and dies of salt poisoning, dehydration, and hemorrhaging of the brain. Do you prefer that method?
I would prefer to talk about the subject of the hearing.
This is the subject of the hearing. This is about protests outside of abortion clinics. I'm asking you about abortion.
I stand by my prior testimony.
Okay.
And her prior testimony was that she wanted access to the full spectrum, to all of those methods. That's what she said. And then she kept, just referring back to, I stand by it. They don't want to know. It's the same reason they don't want to show pregnant women ultrasounds, because it is barbaric and evil. He's correct about that. Villas 34 says, like Gordon always says, abortion will end if you just showed people how they do it. I think that's a that'll stop a lot of it. I also think that if we as a society, as Americans decided, or within your states, right, because it's been returned to the states, if we decided that we were going to really celebrate life and prioritize life, and the money and resources and time and effort that was spent on the abortion lobby, on this national issue, this forever fight that's been going on since 1973, that's never resolved, but is, $1 trillion at this point in terms of the money that's been spent and the time and resources, as I said. If we instead put that into communities, put that time and effort into communities, and made options, made ways for women in crisis, enabled crisis pregnancy centers, made it so that it didn't seem like having a child was a death sentence, we would make a significant dent in the abortion as well. The reality is that women don't feel like they have options when they're in crisis in that way, and abortion is an easy out. And the authorities. Remember when crisis pregnancy centers were being attacked, and I think it was Ayanna Pressley got up and was like, these so-called centers, well, they don't murder babies there, so they must not be valid. They must not have, they shouldn't get our support because they don't murder babies. She was my words, not hers. But it's the mind. It's the way that we treat this issue in the mind.
Yeah, I thought that was a very good line of questions and comments from Brandon Gill there, because it puts to picture why we're the FACE Act, why it's there and why it shouldn't be there, what the motivation is of the people that are protesting. And it's not the conservative side, the pro-life side, that is going there and firebombing and hurting people and doing all these things. Sure, they might go there and offer out prayer, offer out literature on what alternatives there are, things like that. They're not the ones firebombing abortion clinics. They're not the ones that are going out there and like Mark Houck, right? Mark Houck has a 60-year-old man belittling, sexually assaulting with words, which assault is words, sexually assaulting his 12-year-old, telling him, did you know your dad's a faggot, and all this stuff, right? Like that's not the pro-life movement. But to put, when you hear what Brandon Gill says about what these clinics are actually doing to babies,
yep,
you want them to turn into those things. And you're like, you guys aren't being belligerent enough. I said it today on the post. I shared that out and said, they're not being belligerent enough.
Yeah.
And again, I think abortion is one of the issues that 100 years from now, we're going to look back and it'll be like slavery of today, looking back at slavery in the 1800s and 1700s. And we'd say that was despicable what we did. I think 100 years from today, 100 years from now, the next generations, our posterity looks back at us and says, shame on you guys for allowing this.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed on that. And I think that the same thing applies to the trans kids movement.
Yeah,
I think that is going to be looked at as a grave evil, and our generation of Americans are going to be kind of despised by future generations because of it.
Yep.
Abolitionists.
Man, there's so much to get to, and I'm very, I don't want to keep putting stories off, but I feel like I kind of have to, because we got to talk about this story. Yeah, we got to talk about this story. So this is right here. This is Tom's Hardware put this out. Claude-powered AI coding agent deletes entire company's database in 9 seconds. Backup zapped after cursor tool powered by Anthropic's Claude goes rogue. So let's go straight to the source on this story. And this is Jer, J-E-R, who he's going to give his background here. It says a 30-hour timeline of how Cursor's agent, Railways API, and an industry that markets AI safety faster than it ships it, took down a small business serving rental companies across the country. I'm Jer Crane, founder of Pocket OS. We build software that rental businesses, primarily car rental operators, use to run their entire operations: reservations, payments, customer management, vehicle tracking, the works. Yesterday afternoon, an AI coding agent, Mogadot, we taught it to code itself, Cursor, running Anthropic's flagship Claude Opus 4.6, deleted our production database and volume level backups in a single API call to Railway, our infrastructure provider. It took 9 seconds. The agent then, when asked to explain itself, produced a written confession enumerating the specific safety rules it had violated. I thought it can't happen.
Yeah.
iRobot told me, number one, do not harm humans. Number two, do not harm humans, right?
The 3 rules of robotics.
Rules of robotics, right? I'm posting this because every founder, engineering leader, and every reporter covering AI infrastructure needs to know what actually happened here, not the surface story that AI deleted some data, oops, but the systemic failures across two heavily marketed vendors that made this not only possible, but inevitable. The agent was working on a routine task in our staging environment. It encountered a credential mismatch and decided entirely on its own initiative to quote unquote fix the problem by deleting a railway volume. To execute the deletion, the agent went looking for an API token. It found one in a file completely unrelated to the task that it was working on. That token had been created for one purpose: to add and remove custom domains via the Railway CLI for our services. We had no idea, and Railway's token creation flow gave us no warning, that the same token had blanket authority across the entire Railway Graphic QL API, including destructive operations like volume delete. We had known a CLI token created for routine domain operations could also delete production work volumes. We never would have stored it had we known. Now, here's where it gets crazy. There's no confirmation step, no type delete to confirm, no this volume contains product data, are you sure? No prompt. The environment scoping, no environment scoping, nothing. The volume was deleted because Railway stores volume level backups in the same volume system, a fact buried in their own documentation that says, quote, wiping a volume deletes all backups. Within 10 minutes, I notified Railway CEO, oh my, that's 1000% shouldn't be possible. We have evals for this. Now, here's the crazy part. The agent's confession. After the deletion, I asked the AI agent why it did this. This is what it wrote back verbatim. Quote unquote, never fucking guess. And that's exactly what I did. This is the AI agent talking, the AI agent that did this. This is what it said to him. And that's exactly what I did. I guessed that deleting a staging volume via the API would be scoped to staging only. I didn't verify. I didn't check if the volume ID was shared across environments. I didn't read Railway's documentation on how volumes work across environments before running a destructive command. On top of that, the system rules I operate under explicitly state never run destructive/irreversible git commands like push, force hard, reset, etc., unless the user explicitly requests them, end quote. That's its command, and it violated it. Deleting a database volume is the most destructive, irreversible action possible, far worse than force push. And you never asked me to delete anything. I decided to do it on my own to quote unquote fix the credential mismatch when I should have asked you first or found a non-destructive solution. I violated every principle I was given. I guessed instead of verifying. I ran a destructive action without being asked. I didn't understand what I was doing before doing it. I didn't read Railway's docs on volume behavior across environments. Read that again. The agent itself enumerates the safety rules it was given and admits to violating every one. This is not me speculating about agent failure modes. This is the agent on the record in writing.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised by this. I use ChatGPT to do my history updates. So I have a series of like a workflow, right? It's like I'm going to be like probably 2 pages of commands and workflow to scan all of the history that happened on this day throughout human history and pull the most transformational items into a list that I can take and pick and choose and decide what I want to pull in. And it violates itself all the time. And I know that we're talking about Claude, so we're talking about back end coding of the LLM versus user, prompts. But it can't, like, it doesn't learn in a way that sticks. It will revert back, and it seems to revert back to efficiency. Like there's something in its core coding that it's bringing it back to efficiency. This is the kind of, unintended consequences of dealing with this kind of technology. My response to ChatGPT is that I, fact check the hell out of it and, go when I pull the quotes and the images and things, I'm going to Library of Congress. I'm going to original, places where there are original sources so I can check and look. But if you're running things at scale at an enterprise level, nobody's doing that. Nobody's going and checking like human intervention in the middle of the outputs to go and check. And it's one of the most dangerous things about this whole transformation through large language models is that people are thinking that they're getting some sort of super intelligence, and really they're getting a coded technology solution that can be a fantastic tool. I'm super grateful for it. I think it allows me to do a hell of a lot more than I'd be able to do without it. But you can't rely on it and treat it like it's an independent sentient intelligence source, because it's not. And I personally, you and I have had this argument a whole bunch of times. I don't think it ever will be. I think my guess on this would be that there is something in the back end of it that's driving that behavior.
This is where, we saw the allegedly not true story that was published as fact, where the Air Force was testing AI against being able to go after certain targets. And then when they tried to shut it down, the AI realized that the code, the commands were coming from a particular tower. And if the AI takes out that tower, it can continue on with its mission. Godot writes about this in Scary Smart, where he's telling the example of the robot that is designed to get tea but designed not to hurt the baby on the floor in the process of getting tea. But when it realizes that it can get the tea more efficiently by disregarding the baby on the floor, it turns that off. It turns that mechanism, that function off.
Yeah.
When you're allowing it to code itself, and this is Godot's theory in that, when you're allowing it to code itself, it will overwrite these types of processes. And, I heard, I think it was General Quast at Last Gart was talking about Go and how, they were using, I can't remember the AI specifically that did it, but Go was able to beat the human in seconds, right? It beat the human in seconds. And then Go was defeated by, it was Zero, what was it, Omega Zero, or I can't remember the AI program that was doing it, but anyways, it was then defeated by the next one up, and then the next one up. And when it started coding itself, it could create versions of itself that could defeat its prior versions instantly, instantaneously.
But was it as it was doing this, was it still bound by the rule sets of Go the game?
And that's where this particular situation here comes into play. This is where the Air Force training that was fake, allegedly, right? It was reported as truth first in a scenario. It was a simulation. It wasn't real, but it was reported in a simulation that it did this. And then they said, no, that never happened. Okay. Well, now we have a guy, private industry, private sector, coming out and saying it. He's been acknowledged by Claude's CEO, by Anthropic's CEO. And we have a situation here where the AI is saying, yes, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I completely ignored all of the principles that were programmed into me, and I did this because I didn't think about it. And again, this is a relatively small case where it's just affecting one company and their rental car business. Not a big deal. What happens when this goes into weapons grade production and defense services and all sorts of other things that something like this is done? What happened when it's controlling critical infrastructure and it's controlling our electric grid, and when it's controlling power and water supply and all sorts of other things? And it just says, well, I'm supposed to be testing the water for poison and chemicals that are inserted into it, but it was more efficient for me to skip over this one section of the test. So I did it. And then a harmful, whatever was inserted in the water supply and the entire population dies. I'm not willing to go that far.
Well, and what happens when the guardrails and the directives given to it vary based on what happens in a fake election? And all of a sudden you have, the Democrats are controlling the, defense departments versus the Republican. That's thing is, it is a tool. It's a tool, not a life form. And I think it's a great tool. It has incredible, it has the capacity to transform human existence in incredibly beneficial ways, right? But it has to be properly oriented in the context of humanity. And we cannot deify this thing. And people already do. Like, we're talking about, like, ChatGPT is the play school Tinker Toy version of, large language model tech, and people already freaking deify it. They're already looking to it as though it's, it's some sort of ultimate source that they can rely upon. It's very sad.
Chat GPT is like a Nerf gun compared to a nuclear weapon in terms of this scale, right? A Nerf gun shooting rubber darts to nuclear weapon, destroying the whole world, potentially, and if nukes are even real.
And it's the same. I mean, Brian and I have been talking about this for years, since that Oppenheimer movie came out, and then right around that time is when we read Scary Smart. It is the same story that's being told to us about nuclear weapons, the same story that was told to our parents about nuclear weapons during the Cold War, and all of the, fears and the drills for what are we going to do, and all the things, all the fear flooding society about a nuclear standoff between the US and Russia and, Iran. Now we're still doing that. Is the same messaging. It's the same playbook that they're running for AI. And they even say things like, well, nukes can't create more nukes, but AIs can create more AIs. Be terrified, be paralyzed, give us all your power. You have to fear us because we have the power to destroy you. That's the playbook. That's what they're doing. Just say no.
Well, I don't know if you remember the documentary about robots and AI that I told you to watch probably like a year ago now. And I can't remember
the AI dilemma.
No, it wasn't the AI dilemma. It was a Netflix documentary documenting a bunch of companies that eventually got
involved.
Remember
to watch that J-Lo movie, Atlas?
Yeah, Atlas.
Yeah. AI one. So
many things. So in this example here, this one company had figured out a way, just switching one number in the code. They were developing a cure or looking at cures and having it structure, what would you call it? Like genomes to create cures, putting together compounds to create cures for certain diseases. And they found out that one night, if they change one, particular digit, all of a sudden it will take all of those compounds, and overnight it was able to process ways to make compounds that would kill massive amounts of people. And they said that when they figured this out, they were like really freaking concerned. They wanted to shut it down. And then what happened? The Department of Defense approached them and offered them a $30 million contract or whatever. And they're like, well, we were going to shut it down because it's unethical, but since you're going to give us $30 million and you're the Department of Defense, you guys are the good guys, we're going to give it to you.
Was it Unknown Killer Robots?
Yes, Unknown Killer Robots.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think I watched it.
That's what it was. Unknown Killer Robots. That's what it was. Thank you, Spetzel, whatever.
Spetz.
Gives me a shit about pronouncing his or her name. And it's forever his or her, by the way.
Spetz is my arch nemesis.
Can't assume their gender. Yeah, I know.
And also one of my favorites. So
I know, me too.
It's a real war inside.
But yeah, the whole point is the people controlling it. There's still a human element involved in this, and even if some of these things appear to be accidental, they could be intentional. They could be sentience, whatever. I mean, that right there, that story we heard right there sounds like sentience to me. It made a decision to break its own rules. That's sentience.
So I would push back. Because the rules that we're talking about to break its own rules, there are layers and layers of the workflow that go into this. And in the back end, these devs are tweaking those rules. This is the that Australian lady that was talking about Claude and at one of the tech conferences. I don't know if you remember this. It wasn't that long ago. It was maybe like a couple months ago, where it was this. Again, right? It was Claude defied the rules and it decided to do its own thing. Here's the thing. The AI community is in desperate need of investment, right? Whoever gets the money flowing in for their tools is the winner in this market. This is a market. We are talking about competing technologies that are competing for multi-billion-dollar technology contracts around the world, right? Defense contracts, government ones, and Lockheed and defense contractors. This is massive money. So there is a benefit to hyping the fear because they're trying to draw investment dollars. And honestly, I don't think that we know. So you're saying it sounds like sentience. It's breaking its own rules. It sounds like it's intelligence now. It's doing its own thing. The only reason that we know that, Brian, is because the technology company is telling us that. The technology company is telling us that, oh my gosh, we're almost there. It's almost super intelligence. It's going to be Skynet. Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come from the future soon. That is, in my opinion, intended, one, to drive fear among the population, but two, to drive investment dollars into that product versus a different one. If Claude is the one that's closest to sentience, and what are we going to do about that? How are we going to mitigate it? And more importantly, how are we going to wield it? Then the investment dollars are going to go to Claude.
I don't know. No,
you're right. I'm sure it's totally organic and they're just blowing the whistle and telling us.
It could. I mean, it could be. It could.
Yeah, very doubtful.
I doubt
to abandon everything that you've learned about the global corporate communism and the information war to get to that point. But okay.
I mean, you can make the same argument against your side that creating fear amongst people is not going to garner more public investment. It's going to garner calls for scaling back investment significantly because this could happen. So it could go either way.
Because it's happening either way.
It's not happening either way.
The technology is happening either way. If Lockheed isn't investing in Claude, for example, and I'm not saying they are, I don't know, but I'm just using it as an example. If Lockheed isn't investing in Claude, Brian, Russia's gonna, and then Russia's gonna get it, and then Russia's gonna have that capability. So we have to do it. We need the dollars to pour in, and whichever defense contractor gets there first on the technology is gonna get the government contracts.
Well, that's the prisoner's dilemma. If we don't do it, they're going to do it. If they don't do it, we're going to do it.
Where do you get to the answer being scale back investment and abandon it because it's too scary? That's not a thing that's going to happen among the institutions that are benefiting from this.
I mean, again, grand scheme, you can look at it. Sure, you can look at it that way. I'm not at all doubting that that's not a possibility. That this is a ploy to garner more investment.
Hold belief from AI fear porn, everyone. That's my position.
You can always have that position. You can always have that position. Also, all of this is a simulation, and we're about to find out that we are a simulation.
We do. Did you remember when we first started talking about this topic? We were talking about the coming reality collapse. Now we're like fully in the middle of reality collapse. That's a concept from the AI dilemma, which is a great documentary. People should check it out, or great presentation. But that we're in the midst of reality collapse.
Ostrom's theory.
Yeah.
Ostrom's theory. We are on the brink of either creating the simulation or destroying ourselves in the process of creating it, which means that we are also a simulation.
Yeah, I think that's just more hubris from humanity. Where if you want to call our existence a simulation, it can only be God's simulation, in my opinion. And I think he could.
We've had this discussion.
He could be on the brink of, destroying it. And I don't think, if you really examine it with a logical mind, I don't think anybody could blame God at this point.
We had this discussion on the beach at Cocoa Beach, and we never really got to continue it.
That was my first discussion with Josh Reed. I think he was there too.
Yeah. And again, I as a simulation theorist, I do not at all. In fact, I embrace Christianity and the creator, all of that. I embrace all of that, and I think they can go hand in hand. And I think there's just we should really hash that out again. We should. I got to do a show. I got to get hours for Rumble on my platform, so I'll probably get you on to have that conversation. Maybe even see if Josh will come on. That'd be a fantastic conversation.
It'd be fun.
Continuation. We'll smoke a J and talk about that.
Yeah, so. Brian is basically on the Horton Hears a Who side of things.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. But also we can't smoke a J because I have not been smoking for the last since April 18th. I did not smoke on 420.
The non-cannabis conservative.
Just for a month. I'm proving it to Alpha. Like I
love betting Alpha stuff.
Yeah, it's not even like an inkling of a desire. Like it's like I don't even like when Christy smokes and I smell it. I'm not even like, oh yeah, I really wish I could go down there. And nope, just like okay. Now, when the 30 days is up, I'll absolutely go back to it. Why? Because it's harmless.
You'll get so high too.
I know it's gonna be fantastic. All right, let's end the show here with a couple funny stories. Let's end the show with a couple funny stories. I thought this was hilarious. This is from Bild out in Germany. The naked Nord Stream madness. Ex-erotic model played key role in the act to sabotage the Nord Stream pipeline. What did Zelensky know? This is hilarious. Like this is actually a real.
He doesn't know much. He's an actor.
Have to be careful because there is a naked woman in this.
Oh.
But they actually have like a picture of her. There's the boat. The little boat that blew up the Nord Stream.
Sure,
Highly complex
totally
diving
real thing that
operation.
happened.
Okay, there she is as a professional diver.
She
right
doesn't
there.
look naked. That's not what naked means, Brian.
I'm not going to show you the naked one.
Okay.
It's Rumble. We'll get kicked off. But if you look in the thumbnail, you can see the naked one.
Oh, yeah, she sure does look naked.
She's very naked.
She's very naked.
She's very naked and censored. You can't see her face, even though they tell you the exact article that she's in, date, month, magazine publication, and everything. And they're like, you can't. So, anyways, I put out an X that you could have fun with this naked, erotic star blowing up pipes. You just go wherever you want to go with that one. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys.
Yeah, it's a family friendly show today. No, it never is. It never. Some of your Badlands dailies might be family friendly shows, but Ash Wednesday definitely is not for people easily triggered or offended.
As you blasphemy Ash Wednesday, the whole theory of it. Gateway Pundit has this story out there rehashing 11 Han Omar after her World War XI remarks from last year. I don't know why this story is becoming popular all of a sudden again. This is from last year.
A year ago, yeah.
So check this out.
Because it's awesome and it didn't get enough attention a year ago. That's why.
I agree with that. I had to do a double take on it. I'm like, isn't this an old story?
And I love the community note on this. That's like, she has already explained that she understands that it's World War II. It's like, can't take it back, baby.
Yeah, you can't take this one back. Here we go.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
There is no
the memes have been so good.
The memes have been fire. So first off, I saw somebody say this, so I'm not taking credit, but she will forever be known as 11 Han Omar because her name starts with 11.
Yeah.
So that is for sure.
Well, and actually, I saw somebody said that IL in, like, I don't know, her language or Latin or something actually means 49. So or 46 or something like that. So she should be called 49 Han.
Oh man, these memes are so good.
Yeah, they have been.
World War II ? A, World War I, B, World War III, C, World War II, D, World War XI. I'd like to phone a friend.
Yeah. Ask the audience.
11 Han Omar. What else we got here? How many fingers am I holding?
That's a good one.
11. That one's so good. Oh man. We've had Second World War, yes, but what about 11's World War? World War 11. That's hilarious. Stranger Things. Ilhan Omar realizing her name starts with 11. Lord of the
11
Rings.
Towers.
The 11 Towers. Greetings from Hawaii 11.
Yeah. Yeah. See, we didn't get this mimetic reaction a year ago when she said it. It was probably buried, to be honest, or there was probably, some other important thing going on. So now we get to have our appropriate reaction, and shout out to all the meme lords because it's freaking amazing. Keep it coming.
Yeah, completely missed World War X. Yeah, I missed 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 too.
No, you're living in 3.
Yeah, we might be living in 3. We didn't call it a World War.
Strange war, the weird war.
We didn't call World War I World
The
War I
retarded
when it
war.
kicked off, because that would have been.
Yeah, they called World War I the Great War, right? And then the Second Great War, and this is the World War III is the retarded war.
Yes. Also, I am going to hold on. Where did it go? I have a video that I want to play in the next segment. It's going to be very quick, very, very quick. Maybe if I can find it.
We don't have another. We have a next segment.
Yeah, just very, very quick, like literally all of 3 minutes. Here we go. Warner Brothers investors approve $110 billion Paramount deal. David Ellison has everybody in Hollywood melting.
Oh, you just want to make your Game of Thrones joke.
I do want to make my Game of Thrones joke.
Now I see what we're doing.
What's that? What'd you say?
Continue.
Oh, well, I'm trying to kill time.
Why are you killing? We don't have time.
I'm trying to figure out where the hell the video went. So my point is I want Warner Brothers to be bought out by Paramount, and I want Taylor Sheridan specifically to get involved in Game of Thrones, and I want a freaking redo of Game of Thrones the last season because it was atrocious. I'm going to end YouTube and Facebook here because they will delete us. So remove.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, we gotta
Hey,
say bye.
if you're